All right, joined now by our Suns Insider Flex. Busy weekend here on Planet Orange Flex. The Suns making a head coaching hire. It's Frank Vogel taking over now for Monty Williams. What was your initial reaction when this news came down this week?
I like it. I think Frank is phenomenal. I think it's a terrific hire. And this is not just because this is a guy the Suns have been targeting. This is a guy I've admired for a long time. You know, he's a Wildwood, New Jersey native. Everybody knows I'm from New Jersey. So I've been following Frank for quite some time. And I think he's a basketball genius on the defensive end. He's a very good coach, well respected. And I thought it was a very cerebral hire. I think they, no rocks unturned. They looked at a lot of candidates. And at the end of the day, they came to Frank Vogel as the best candidate. And I agree with it. I think it's a good choice.
You mentioned the process, leaving no stone unturned. What was your kind of take? I guess dive a little bit deeper into that. It seemed like, obviously the decision to, move on from Monty was quick after the Game 6 loss. But then in the coming weeks, it was kind of judicious. They, looked at everybody from up-and-coming assistants to guys like Frank Vogel and Doc Rivers.
Yeah, I think they did a good job. You talk about Doc Rivers, you talk about Nick Nurse, you talk about the guy we hired, Frank Vogel, Kenny Atkinson, Jody Fernandez, Kevin Young. I think they looked at a whole bunch of different variables, and they came to the conclusion again that Frank fits what they're trying to do. Now, it's going to be a busy offseason, and there's an entire roster reconstruction that's going to happen this summer. And I think that it's a good sign because you look at it, Robby, this is a defensive-minded coach with a team that's predominant, an offensive machine when you talk about Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. So you're not lacking offense. But I think that the old theory rings true. Defense wins championships, and I think this team is ready to make a significant change on the defensive end. And so I like what they did, very methodical, didn't rush into it. And I think they did a really good job. I think people are going to really like Frank Vogel.
You could kind of read my mind there. You started talking about the roster reconstruction that's going to be required moving forward. How important is it going to be for the Suns to get this, not rebuild, but reconstruction right in the next couple of months to get guys in that fit what Frank will want to do defensively? Because I assume defensively it will be quite different than what Monty was requiring of these guys.
Yeah, it's going to be very important. And from the conversations I'm having, I think the Suns approached this coaching search with a lot of different dynamics and variables. It was like, okay, if we went with Doc Rivers, what would the roster look like? What are Doc Rivers' strengths? If we went with a Kenny Atkinson or a Nick Nurse, what would be their strengths? And I think that a part of landing on Frank Vogel is the ability to know that you can target some of the guys that fit in his system. So there are guys out there that are floating around that are going to become available as free agents or potential trades down the line with players. A guy that everybody wants to talk about is DeAndre Ayton. There are 5 or 6, 7 teams I've heard now that have offered packages that are impressive packages for DeAndre Ayton. And so when you look at those packages, you kind of maximize and you say, okay, what package fits us best and what coach can utilize that package best? And I think that's how you land on a Frank Vogel. And so I expect a team that's going to be very good defensively and equally good on offense with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Chris Paul. Chris Paul will be back. They will pick up that $30 million option.
Obviously, Kevin Young, one of Monty's top assistants, a guy that was reportedly a finalist for this job. What are the odds that he stays here in Phoenix as one of Frank Vogel's top assistants, or is there a good chance from what you're hearing maybe that Monty wants Kevin to stay with him and go to Detroit? Because it seems like Kevin would be a boon to have here for the Suns as his offensive mind to kind of be the yin to Frank's defensive yang, if you will.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's an answer that I've been working the phones all afternoon about that. And here's the conclusion I'm coming up with people close to the situation. Most coaches, Robby, when they come in, they want to bring their entire staff with them. They want to build that. Part of the beauty of Frank Vogel was his willingness to say, I'm okay bringing Kevin Young back. If Kevin wants to come back, I'm okay with that. And so the ball is kind of in Kevin's court. The Suns want him back. The Suns let him know he's welcome back. Frank Vogel has made it clear he's okay with him coming back. And now it's just going to be up to Kevin. What's his familiarity with Phoenix? Does he want to go with Monty? Does he want to change things up? Is he comfortable? And so I think it's in his court But the fact that we have that opportunity at hand is impressive from multiple levels, from the organization, from Frank Vogel, and from Kevin himself, that he's willing to even entertain that. So I don't want to put a number on it, but I will say it's really a 50-50 thing, and it's going to depend on what Kevin wants to do. If he's comfortable in Phoenix, he can stay.
Obviously, Flex, you are dialed into this team just as much, if not better, than anybody else. When it comes to the NBA, it's a superstar-driven league. Is it safe to assume that hiring Frank Vogel is a decision that was made, maybe not, because that's what Kevin Durant and Devin Booker wanted, but they were at least consulted and they knew kind of where this search was coming to its conclusion here?
Unequivocally, Robbie. This is a business. These franchises run different now. The old NBA I grew up in, it was a little different. Management and ownership, they kind of did their thing, and the coaches did what they did, and the players stood in their lanes. But this is more of a collaborative effort now. The league has transitioned, and the ownership has transitioned into more of a partnership with the players. And so, yes, I can say emphatically, unequivocally, that Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, guys like Chris Paul, these guys were in on these conversations. There was no rock unturned, and I think everyone came to the conclusion that this is a good fit for everyone. So, again, it is a partnership, and I think those guys are on board.
So last thing, just the first domino now of what we expect to be a busy offseason has fallen. The decision is looming on Chris Paul. You said you imagine that will be the option for this next year will be picked up. So what is the next major kind of domino that Suns fans should look to maybe fall here?
Well, yeah, I can confirm that Chris Paul's option is going to get picked up. That hasn't been announced, but I can tell you emphatically that's going to get done. Chris Paul's option is going to come. He's going to get picked up, and he's probably going to be the starting point guard on opening night. And so now you start looking at the roster construction, and you say, how many people are on the contract? How many free agents do we have? And how do we get better? And that's the DeAndre Ayton factor. There are a lot of teams that are interested in DeAndre Ayton, and there's a potential for the Suns to maybe move DeAndre Ayton and add 2, maybe 3 players to, the rotation or to the depth of the team. And so I think that's the next thing to monitor. The NBA draft is coming up, and there are teams interested in DeAndre Ayton that have dangled picks in the lottery for DeAndre Ayton. So it's about to get crazy here, Robbie. It's gonna get crazy. It's gonna pick up. And the Suns could be in the lottery if they get the right deal for DeAndre, and if they don't, that'll go into after the actual lottery. But there's offers for DeAndre, and I expect DeAndre Ayton could be moved to build depth for this roster.
Well, that's a tease right there, Flex. The Suns could be in the lottery. We'll leave it with that right there, a little nugget to keep us chewing on moving forward. I'm sure we'll be talking again soon. This is going to be a wild offseason here in Planet Orange, Flex. We appreciate it.
Anytime. My pleasure, guys.